Hi everyone, this is Payanna and welcome to my channel. So I was rearranging my book collection a couple of days ago and I found this. This is Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops by Jen Campbell. It's a collection of anecdotes and conversations that Jen Campbell collected, all of which come from booksellers in bookshops, and the kind of weird clients that you get in there. Because it does get very weird. My dad first told me about this book because he heard about it on the radio, and he just came to see me and said, "Oh, I've got to buy this book for you because it's like totally for you," because I was always coming home with like weird stories with weird clients when I was working in the bookshop. And so I thought I'd share some of them with you today. I also remember this girl I used to know who worked in clothes shops, I think, and she once said to me, "Oh, you're so lucky to work in a bookshop because it means that all your customers are like intelligent people and they read." And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. It's not because people read that they're less weird and stupid than other customers. When you work in a shop, when you work in any kind of commerce, you are, in close proximity with the public and all the weird stuff that gets thrown at you. So I have many stories, and especially I worked in bookshops, but they weren't like exclusively bookshops. They also sold magazines, newspapers, stationery, all kinds of things, and usually had quite a big book section. So they weren't like exclusively bookshops. Yeah, some of the customers really stayed with me. I still have nightmares. Weird customer number one. So there was this lady who used to come in every single day. She used to come in every morning and buy her newspaper. And she, I remember like describing her to you. She was one of these like quite elderly ladies, and you've all seen one. You've all seen one who looks like this. She had all this kind of white fluffy hair, like really white, like not natural white, like ultra white hair, and really kind of bright blue mascara and like eyeliner and like really bright pink lipstick. You know the kind of lady I'm talking about. She was a really nice lady, only she could be a bit weird and stubborn. For instance, like every morning she'd come in, she'd buy her newspaper, and she always asked for a bag, like a plastic bag to put her newspaper in. And this was at the time when we were going to stop providing plastic bags. It was going to become law that plastic bags would no longer be a thing. And we kept telling her this. We kept saying, "Look, why do you ask for a bag every day? Like, why don't you just use the same bag and bring it back? Like, that's what everyone else did." And she said, "Yeah, I just throw them away." And so we said, "Yeah, just keep them, because in a few months' time, we won't be able to give you bags anymore. There's not going to be bags. That's it. That's the end." And she didn't get this. Like, we would tell her this like a lot, and she didn't understand. She'd always ask for a bag until the day came when we didn't give out bags anymore. And she was like, "I need a bag. I always want a bag." And we're like, "Get a bag for life or something. We keep telling you we're not going to do them anymore, and now we're not doing them anymore." So yeah, she was really nice, but a bit weird. When it came to books, yeah, she really liked Danielle Steele, so she was always kind of looking. She'd get a Danielle Steele book from the book section, bring it over to us and say, "I'm not going to buy this now. I'll come back and buy it tomorrow. Can you like put it to one side for me?" So we'd be like, "Yeah, sure." And we'd put it in the corridor where all the reservations were. And so she'd come back the next day and she'd always ask, like, "Is the book still there? Is it still, like, in the reservation bit?" And we'd be like, yeah, if you want it now." She's like, "No, I won't buy it now. I'll buy it another time." And her books would stay there for months. Until one day someone got annoyed and put them back in the shop, and it's like, oh, she's obviously never going to buy them. And then she'd come back and ask for it, and we're like, "Yeah, we sold it to someone else." And she'd get really angry with us and be like, "No, that was my book that I wanted." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you just buy it?" And there were these miracle moments, these magical moments, when she did actually go through and buy a book. She would get a book from the book section and buy it. And we were like, yay, problem solved. She's got her book, she can go away, she can read it. And we don't need to hear about this for a while. At least that's what we thought. All she would do was she would come back in the following day and say, I don't like this book. I want to swap it for another one. And that could happen like 2, 3, 4, 5 times in a row. She would always come back and swap it for something else and eventually ask for a refund. So this person had commitment issues. But one day she came in really excited because this lady had a 15-year-old granddaughter who she'd come and stay with her in the holidays. We'd see her. And she came in one day and said, oh, my granddaughter has told me about this amazing book. And she said, Granny, you really must read it. And it was The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, which we had. And she asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, we've got it, it's over here. And so I took her, she followed me into the book section. We went into the teenage section, at which point she stopped. Like, there was sort of lying on the floor, this sort of magic barrier that she just boom, stopped and said, what, are you telling me that this is a book for teenagers? Like, it's in the teenagers section? And I was like, well, yeah, but, you know, your teenage daughter recommended it to you. What were you expecting? And essentially she refused, like she got really angry and said, I'm not buying a book for teenagers. I'm an adult. Like, I'm not reading a book for teenagers. I wasn't quite sure what to say to that. So yeah, we didn't want to buy a book that her teenage granddaughter had recommended to her because it was a book for teenagers. The logic. Weird client number 2. One day I was alone in the bookshop and there was no one else. There was no clients there. It was just me. And this old lady came in. I'd never seen her before. I never saw her since. So this was a client I didn't know. But she was kind of hovering around the book section. She looked a bit confused, so I had no one else around, so I just went straight over to her and said, hello madam, how may I help you? And she was a bit aggressive, and she was quite elderly. I don't know, she's about 70, if not more. And she kind of really aggressively said, I want a book, like, give me a book. And I was like, yeah, of course, madam, what kind of book would you like? And she just went, a cheap one. Okay. So I started asking her questions like, what kind of thing would you like to read? What kind of genres do you like? And she just wasn't paying any attention to me at all. She was just kind of looking around in all the book section, and she kind of wandered into the kind of adolescent section and picked up Percy Jackson. So I started explaining to her what Percy Jackson was. This is the son of a Greek god, and like, you know, goes on this adventure in Greek mythology and da-da-da. And like, she just went, how much does it cost? How much does this cost? And I was like, oh, about 15 euros. And she's like, oh no, that's too expensive. Like, she really didn't care about the content of the book. She just wanted a cheap book. And I was still trying to ask questions like, is it for you? Is it a gift? Like, give me something to go on here. And in the end, I snapped and just gave her a book by Françoise Bourdin that was about 5 euros or something. And she paid for it and left, and I never saw her again. So, yeah. Weird. Customers from bookshops, and this is true the world over, like, they see, and you get this in Jen Campbell's book, like, people who just come in and say, oh, I saw a book on TV last night, they were talking about it, and do you have it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, what's the title? Oh, I don't know, I can't remember. What's the name of the author? I don't know, I can't remember. Any idea what the cover looks like? Yeah, I don't know. What channel was this on? I can't remember. And do you have it? Like, just expecting us to like magically make it appear. Again, I need something to go on, and you know, I had one time kind of the same sort of thing just came up to me and was like, oh, do you have the new book that's been released I know the author's a woman and that's it, like, sort yourself out with that. We need a minimum of information. We are not these magical beings that can just magically make books appear out of nothing, according to your description. Sometimes it's possible, like with bits of information and Google, I have managed to find the book that the customer wanted, but that only happened like maybe 2 or 3 times out of God knows how many hundreds. So yeah, try and write. You see a book on TV and you like the look of it, write it down somewhere. Oh, I don't know. We're not magic. We cannot read your mind and magically make this thing appear for you. Some readers seem to have an aversion to reading author bios. And this is also one that I've kind of had to fight with over the years. Especially people who don't seem to understand that authors have died. Like, I had a woman in one day asking me about Jane Austen, like, oh, do you know when Jane Austen's next book's coming out? Yeah, so authors died. Stieg Larsson was quite a big one as well. A lot of people kept asking me, like, oh, when's the 4th book in the Millennium series, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo series, when's that coming out? And it has been continued now. Like, another author has taken it up and done, like, I think there's 3 new books in the series now written by someone else. But, like, we didn't know this back in 2011 and 2012, so I would end up having these really weird conversations and saying, Stieg Larsson's dead, like, he died in 2004, I think, and they were like, oh, really? And yeah, like, it says in his bio in the book, in every single book I have, it says Stieg Larsson died of a heart attack in 2004. He died before the books were even published. So read bios. And another weird conversation I had, and I have no idea who this guy got the author confused with, but this was Anne Roubillard, who's a Quebecan from Quebec, in Canada, an author from there, and she wrote, like, she writes quite a lot of teenage stuff, like fantasy, and this guy, like, got one of his books from the bookshop and kind of came up to me and said, oh wow, I didn't know she'd written this new series, like, because she's extremely efficient, like, she writes a ton of stuff. But he was really happy, and he said, oh, I really love this author, I'm going to buy this book. So I was like, yeah, sure, okay. And then he said, oh, and we have to kind of support her because she's from around here. She's, you know, one of our local authors, bearing in mind that I live in Normandy. And I was like, she's not even French, dude. She's not from around here. So I have no idea who he got her confused with. Yes, I didn't tell him that she wasn't, like, from around here. I just went, okay, do you want a bag? Like, that was it. But yeah, read author bios. Because, you know, you can learn stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've made that mistake. I thought that Fred Vargas was a man for a while, until a client corrected me on that. I didn't. So yeah, I mean, we're not perfect, but I didn't know because I'd never read one of her novels, so therefore I'd never read any bios, but do make a point of reading the author's bios. Yeah. So it was lovely reading this because it just rang so close to home. Like, a lot of these stories, especially the ones of, like, people saying, make my book appear, I have no information. Here's a book I read 20 years ago, it was green, find it. So that's basically, like, all the stories are, like, weird and crazy things. There are also ones, I think someone asked about A. Milne at one point, like, oh, when's their next book coming out? So yeah, a lot of these, like, rang so true with my experiences. So yeah, I really do, if you want to have a good laugh, read this book by Jen Campbell, The Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops, and I honestly hope that you don't find yourself in this somewhere, because there are a lot, they come from all over the world, these stories. Like, they're from the US, they're from the UK, Scotland, Australia, I think every English speaking country basically. Or, like, all of these stories with weird customers and the weird things they say. So that was my recommendation for today by Jen Campbell. Enjoy.